Welcome back to the Daily Edge here with my brothers TJ and Todd Daly. And today we're going to talk about collectibles. I mean, you can collect anything. There's the Pokemon craze, there's sports card craze. Anything that there's a supply and demand there, I think there's collectibles, but there's also a lot of things like, and I think back to like the PlayStation 3 or what are we on 5, the PlayStation 5, couldn't get it for a year, right? Because everyone bought everything up and then they sold it at a higher amount. So
Legos, cars.
I mean, anything that's at demand that you can get that's going to go out of stock. Resellers have created this unbelievable, gotta have last one kind of mentality, and people are going crazy. And what I'd like to start with is like I saw this meme the other day, and it was like, Pokemon, the quickest way to, being evicted from your house is to start collecting Pokemon. Like the financial drain on, and this is not the kids. These are adults that are really diving in, and I've got plenty of stories that I'll definitely share throughout. But, how has collecting cards as a kid or anything, I mean, it could be Beanie Babies, back in the day, if we could remember, it'd be fun to go back and to think of the things that we collected back and what we do now. But it's a craze right now. And so I would love to get your guys' take, your experience. If you guys are currently collecting anything as a family or an individual, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to pose it. I'd like to look at it philosophically, because I think we all know. I'd love to just explore this, unpack it really quickly. I don't know about you guys, but I have one or two friends, one person I think of in particular who is like a career collector. And, like from a philosophical standpoint, why do we do it? Is it cataloging history and like keeping that nostalgia? Is that, we associate certain feelings with certain moments in time, and then we try to recapture that moment in time through collecting. There's certain people that are, I have a buddy who I believe at one time had one of the top 5 largest record collections in the world. But he also collected sports memorabilia, but like very specific things, and just cataloging that. So I like it's really interesting, right? Because I think on one side of it, there's that. And then like you referred to, the other side of it is taking advantage of humans like animals, desire for an opportunity at chance. Right? Like they tell you that like you only need to give a dog a treat 1 out of every 7 times, because that one time keeps them coming back. Same thing. I think we exhibit that behavior as humans where, so you see it. We had an episode on gambling. And so I'd like to unpack that. And I guess maybe before we get into what we're doing right now, from an execution or tactical standpoint, like where is it for you? Do you lean one more? Like a particular way? Are you doing it for are you doing it for nostalgia? Are you doing it for the thrill? Are you doing it for both? Or is there a third reason? Like, hey, this is like we talked about with gambling, it's entertainment for my family.
To me, it's a product of boredom, and there's very, very little good that comes out of it. And I'm self-incriminated in that because I've done it. And I think there's one good that I've found to come out of it. And the reason I have done it is bonding with the boys. The boys enjoy it. I, enjoy it. And that's generally why I do it. But otherwise, I think it promotes false idols. I think it promotes spending money that you may or may not have. I think it promotes gambling. I think philosophically and maybe a little bit theologically here, I don't think it's a healthy thing. And I think it's a product of boredom of the human race. And I honestly think our ancestors would be completely disgusted by the way we're passing time with collecting cards. And that includes myself. I mean, I'm right in the square of it.
It's so I didn't collect cards since we were kids, and then one of my friends got me back into when Victor Wembanyama was a rookie. It's like probably the next phenom, the next Michael Jordan, big year, got to start collecting, and so I had a little disposable money and started doing it with the kids. And I started to learn the whole system, and I was like, you you go to Walmart or Meijer or wherever, and you buy the hanger boxes for $40.
Well, hold on. Let's pause. Why don't you talk? But let's talk about. Let's rewind and start. We did collect as kids, so talk about the evolution from collecting the 1989 Hoop series to what it is today, and then include that.
Yeah, well, I mean, back in the day, we rode our bike to Village Pantry and bought a pack for 99 cents or 89 cents, right? We bought a pack of cards.
20, 30 cards.
Yeah, it had had a piece of gum in it, which I hated because I hate gum. But like, yeah, you would collect it, and you would try to build the series. And I mean, back then we were casing Jordans and things like that. But yeah, we were collecting. And Dad, he would go to like the local place and buy like full boxes.
Casey Sports Cards, KPK Sports
Shout out.
Shout outs. And then he would go to Coverly's, who was a distributor of gas stations. Like they distributed candy and stuff, almost like a Sam's Club. And he would buy boxes and keep them, until later periods of time. But back then it was like, there wasn't a lot of variety. I mean, you had just the card. Now it's like everything. It's just like video games. You used to play Mario Brothers or Mario Brothers 3. You were either a fireball, you had a tail, or you were a regular person. Now these characters have infinite, capabilities, infinite custom, stats. And so it's similar with cards. They make so many sets each year. It's insane. I mean, Pokemon's got to come out with a new set every like 8 weeks, it seems like.
Yeah.
There's always a new set. There's always special inserts. In basketball cards, there's always one of one. There's autographs, there's patches, there's jersey. I mean, they have taken this market, and now, there's really two major card companies. It's Topps, which is owned by Fanatics now, and then there's Panini. I'm sorry, in the sports world. Obviously, Pokemon's its own animal. And Panini had the NBA rights and just lost it, and Topps now has it. So now Panini they can do cards, but they can't have the name of the jersey on it and such. So it's going to be really interesting. But I wanted to read a fact to you because part of what I enjoy about it is the collecting, but it's the slot machine hit. It's like, man, I sent you guys a video the other day, and I was beyond. But I think there's good and bad in that, and I'll tell you a story. So for Easter, both of my sons got a small box, $30 box of Pokemon. And my youngest 8-year-old opens his box up, and he's got this card. It's got the trainer and the Pokemon, which is like supposed to be good. And he shows it to my oldest, and my oldest was like, "Oh, that's my favorite card. That's the one that I wanted so bad." And my oldest didn't get any hits. And so he's kind of like, it left him feeling a little jealous. My youngest is like, "I bet it's worth $150 or $200. Dad, look it up. Dad, look it up." And I'm like, "I don't have Card Ladder anymore." He's like, look it up. And I'm like, all right, I look it up, and I was like, it looks like one sold on eBay for $14.50. And he went from, are you sure? Like, it sucked everything out of it. The collecting part, it's a neat card part, it all became about the money. And this is an 8-year-old. And so I'm like, I saw that, and I'm like, this is not good. So for the slot machine pull side of it, where it's like, I want to hit a card, but then there's the collectible factor of like, I want to collect a whole set of something. And I think that becomes fun to just collect things. But I'll go back to, disposable income, I think is important. But there's one stat I want to read you. Pokemon cards have seen the largest long-term increase in value of all cards. It's up 3,261% over 20 years. And it's increasing at nearly 46% a year, far exceeding the S&P 500 and NVIDIA, which is an average of 12%. And even in the last 5 years, it's going up 350%. Sports cards is a $33.6 billion industry that they're anticipating to be a $271 billion industry by 2034. So recently, I collect basketball cards. So I was kind of given that evolution. You could only buy a certain pack. It was $1. You get it anywhere you want, but it was just really a standard pack. Well, now you got the hanger boxes, which are standard packs. You have the mega boxes, which are just above standard packs, which are in that $60 to $70 range. But if you want to get the good hits, you got to buy hobby box or higher. Hobby boxes are anywhere from $400 to, I've seen them as high as $1,800, depending on the set. So Topps comes out with their initial set, and then they come out their Topps regular, and then that's like in December. Then they come out with their Topps Chrome. Now they have NBA Fanatics. They're getting ready to come out with a Topps Chrome Supercharged that has all the rookie patches on them. You cannot go, so you could only buy hobby boxes or breaker boxes or national treasure boxes, all these at a card store. So you're going to physical card stores like in Indy, the Indy Card Exchange. Right now, you can't find them. You cannot go in and buy your standard hobby boxes in there, and you haven't been. Like, they come in, they sell out. And we're talking
$1,000 boxes.
Yeah, the breaker box, $1,550.
How many cards in it?
The breaker box has one pack and it has 10 cards.
For $1,500.
$1,550, one pack, but it has 3 autographs. So you're guaranteed 3 autos. The hobby box, which is running about $980 now, has 2 autos, but it has 6 packs. And so that's the new Topps Finest that just came out, and you cannot find them. You cannot buy them. And so it tells you the type of people that are getting into the games. Part of it, I think, is the whole Whatnot phenomenon. If you don't know what Whatnot is, it's an app. It's basically you can go on and buy any card. And they have these people that go on and sell individual cards. But a lot of these guys have started, it's basically an industry where they'll do these box breaks where they sell teams. So like, let's say it's NBA. They'll say, okay, I'm selling 32 slots, and you are bidding, and you're going to get randomly assigned a team and then the spots. And so then you just swipe and you bid and say, okay, you spent $80 for a spot. The next guy may spend $100. And then, so like you may get, let's say you get the Spurs by chance, right? So you spent $80 to $100 and you randomly got assigned the Spurs. Then he opens the box on screen, and any card that he gets that's a Spur, you get. So like, well, will he get a Wemby? I don't know. Probably one of the best cards, or like a Dylan Harper rookie. But if he doesn't hit any Spurs, then you don't get anything. So like there's this so a lot of that's happening, and a lot of people are buying boxes, and the similar to like trying to get Taylor Swift tickets, like the Topps Finest box were released at $480 hobby boxes, and now they're $980. And they're impossible to find. And so the internet has also made all the resellers just kind of run up. So it's basically high stakes. And it is no joke that it is putting financial pressure on a lot of people that want to be collectors. And so there's good, there's bad. It feels like gambling. Going back to your question, what drives it? I think it's like, I'm going to win. I'm going to hit big. I'm going to get the 101. I mean, there's cards that sell for $1 million.
It's so interesting. You watch something to kind of paint the picture a little bit more granularly as it relates to Whatnot for people who have never experienced that. Just imagine like a reel or a YouTube live stream where somebody is opening packs of cards and showing you what they get. And you can either, like he said, bid on and or buy something that would allow you to gain access for them to ship you that card physically or buy the actual card itself. But it's crazy because what seems to be happening is like, man, the people who got in, it's always this way, or the people that have been in for a little bit are just shredding the people that are new to the market that are jumping into the hype. I remember getting in, again, my reference point was kids. Like 10 cards a pack, 20 cards a pack. Just that in and of itself, the quantity. And I remember, again, I mentioned in prior podcasts, we were into F1. So I'm like, I wonder if they have F1 cards, because for me, because my daughter's super into it, it's like, okay, well, there's a secondary piece here. We're not collecting stuff we don't understand about just to collect it that we won't care about in a week. So we get on. He's like, oh yeah, I'm breaking half a case. Do half a case of Topps Chrome F1. I'm like, you think about back when we were kids, if somebody had a case of cards, that was thousands and thousands of cards, because you're talking, a case was like 20 boxes of 20. Hundreds of cards a box, right? 120, 200 cards a box. And so I'm like, oh, hell yeah. And so I bid on one of the drivers, and it's like the dude. I think it was Kimi Antonelli, who is a rookie. He's second year, but he's super young, and he's won the first two of the first 3 races this year. He's like, it's like huge, and then he breaks the first box in this case of half case of 6 boxes, and he takes out the first pack, and there's 6 cards.
6 cards per pack,
and there's 6 packs per box. So there's like 30 cards a box, and I'm like, there's only 180 cards. And what they've done, like a lot of the other brands out there, is like there's a lot of historical cards in there, right? Like older drivers and people who've retired. And I was exactly what you talked about. But if you look at it economically, he probably bought those boxes for $600 a piece. And like, there were some of the drivers.
Spots.
There were 22 spots, but the cheapest spot was like $100.
Yeah.
And some of them go as high as 300. So you're, again, I don't know what they bought them for, but like if it was 400 per box, like you were talking about, it was $2,400 and he made 5,000. But then you got these people that are spending $100 or $200 or $300 for a slot to get absolutely nothing. And man, it's pretty nuts.
So before, I think cards is probably the biggest thing now, but before that it was shoes, Jordans, and Jordans are still hard to get. And part of it is like, they go in the vault, they stop making them, and then they do a release and a drop. And I would say maybe 10 years ago, the ultimate collectible was Jordans. Is that fair?
Yeah.
To that, and that's kind of cycled. So it's going to be interesting because Pokemon up 3,000 some percent. Like, when will it hit its precipice? Like, when will people not be able to spend $1,500 on a box of cards? Like, you would think if they're charging something for that there's going to be inventory out there, because that's pretty stinking high. What kills a cycle? I know Pokemon's done a lot to try to limit the customer ability to buy multiple of them, right?
Yeah.
Because that's been a challenge, and they've probably done better than most, because everyone else is like, you can buy as much as you want and go. Like, how do you think we come out of this, or do we never come? And I know a lot of the NBA players are buying their own cards. Like, they're buying a lot of stuff.
I mean, I think, look, humans are going to gamble. Humans have been gambling for hundreds of years and probably thousands of years. If we were to go back, there are probably aspects of people who got thrill out of pulling the handle. And this is a different way to do it. And I mean, people have been collecting sports cards for
well over 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, well over 100 years. And I think even sports cards have been huge for well over 30. I mean, the value of the Jordan rookie, didn't really, I think part of that was because at that time it wasn't as big, right? But by the early 90s, sports cards was massive and Pokemon's massive. And I think anytime that, I think the more steam those things build, the longer it takes for them to kind of fade out, and I think in a world that's getting more and more digital, people are liking the physical experience of, I can't speak to whatnot, but physical experience of opening packs. I mean, I think you're more likely to see the types of cards shifting to different things that people are interested in, whether it's F1 or it's Pokemon or it's sports or it's something else that becomes really popular at some point. There seems to be cards here. There's Disney cards now. There would be actors, and
Golf, Marvel, Disney, that you can buy a card for just about anything.
So I think it's going to be an extremely long time. And again, you may have a certain sport that goes up and down or a certain area of interest, but I think it's such an industry now that anytime there's a societal interest in something, you're going to see.
Is it the confluence of nostalgia and the income disparity and disposable income? Meaning, like right now, like Pokemon over the last 6 months, year has gone like, and maybe it was just outside of my purview. I mean, it's always had a really loyal following. People that play TCG, people that play the games, right? That have played every version of every Game Boy game, Game Boy Advance game, Nintendo DS game, Switch game that's come out. They've played them all. People that play Pokemon Go and that are out, there's always been a loyal following as it relates to that particular fandom. But it seems like over the last 6 months to a year, it's off the charts. And I wonder, is it, we're now getting to the point where the people who, we're what is it? It was 30. So that were like 10 in the mid 90s when Pokemon kind of hit, they're now 40. And the way income is kind of shifted, where there's a disparity and there's a lot of haves and a lot of have-nots and not a lot in the middle. It's like, there's the nostalgia factor. And I have $1,000 to spend on a box. Like, is that why it's taking off like it's taking off right now? And when, because I think you're right. Like with the shoe cycle, is it because we're so close in proximity to those exact people that they're maybe 5, 6, 7 years younger than we are, that we feel that undercurrent of this like excitement around Pokemon, and there's another demographic of people who maybe they're in their 20s right now and they don't care and they're further away from it? Like, do we just feel it because of our proximity to it? Or is it really, really, really real? And there's going to be maybe if we hit another recession like we did in 2008, maybe that's one of the first things the bottom drops out on. I don't know. So just kind of posing that for you too.
I think you're right. I mean, I think the demand, the increases that you've seen is generally an entrance of significant amounts of money into the system. And so you have companies and or people and or other entities that are injecting large amounts of cash into the system, and that's driving the prices up considerably. Now, there are a lot of people that can't afford it that are still,
that's true,
playing it for sure. It's fascinating. The one thing I wanted to point out about it that I think is interesting and why it's going to be here for a long time, it does promote human interaction. It promotes human interaction in trading the cards amongst friends. It promotes human interaction if you're doing the whatnot and ripping packs or boxes. And I think I think that's a draw, whether it's conscious or subconscious. I think people enjoy that human interaction. We're getting less and less of it naturally, and it's a way to connect.
There's nothing like ripping packs. I mean,
pulling a slot machine is pretty close.
It's pretty close, but like for kids especially, we had Christmas, and one of the things we did is we played this, bingo game, and they got to come up and they either got a pack of cards or they could punch a hole and get up to $20. And it was like the board didn't even exist. And that was even for the adults too. They had Disney packs. They had hobby packs of regular tops, and it was like, they're freaking out, just opening the packs. It was like, oh, am I going to hit? Is this going to hit? So, they get really, it's just really exciting to rip packs with when we get a box and we decide to do it. You get the kids around, and then you got the cases. And I got to tell you though, so I've been collecting for a couple years now, and it becomes a storage issue at some point, right? It's like, I've organized by teams. I've got way too much because I'm not actually selling any of the inventory at this moment, but there is, at least in the sporting world, there is timing, right? Like NBA finals are coming up. You follow teams. You're like, if it ends up being Shea in the finals, or if Spurs get, like, those cards are going to be hotter. Con Knipple right now is super hot. He set the record for 3-pointers. He's a rookie. They're not going to do well, but like, he had an unbelievable season. He's probably one of the top 2-3 rookies. He probably won't get rookie of the year. I think Coop had a 50-point game. Is probably still going to get it. So, but if you got like Cooper flag cards that are like any type of rarity at all, like just a baseline Cooper is like $50.
Those are the people that I think there are some people that have gotten into it, have mastered it, have really calculated it, and they're doing to make a living. And that I'm okay with. Like, I feel like if you're there to make a living at it and you take your time to master the craft, like, I think there's a place for that. I just wish I personally, and all of us weren't as susceptible to what I think is just I'm always one that can find the good in just about anything. And there's certainly with the human interaction, the ability to bond with kids and things, but this is tough.
I think there's a couple different
tough.
real classifications of people that are into this hobby. You know, to your point about the masters, my wife is, shout out Tara Daly, extremely into Pokemon. It is, I've never seen her.
How long has she been into this?
It really probably like 4 months.
And why did she start? I'm curious. Like what was the trigger?
I think it was Miles. Like, you know, I mean, that's her boy. It's our only son, and we have 2 daughters. And so like, that's her boy. And he was kind of in it adjacent, right? His friends would have cards and they'd show him cards, and we know how competitive our kids can be. And he wanted better cards, and he wanted to open packs. And so then she got into it. And then the rush of it. And then her friends, she has a couple friends, my sister-in-law's husband is into it, and one of Tara's best friends and her husband are into it. So like, then she's got this kind of community. They're all doing it together. And then she actually like, you know, I was really negative, kind of like you at the beginning. I'm like, look, dude, I collected cards as a kid and they were really, really cool then. And I haven't cared about cards in 30 years. You know, I've gotten excited about collecting things, and then I know they end up like, you know, for me, they don't bring any value. But yeah, she has almost completed an entire set. She has everything digitally cataloged. She is, you know, you talked earlier about Pokemon restricting opportunities to buy. So they have these Pokemon machines in different areas, and we have one in our local Kroger. And the way it works is it's stocked, but it only shows in stocked during certain timed intervals. So they could have 100 boxes in this Pokemon machine, but you just can't walk up and buy 100 boxes. You have to wait. It'll do a reset, and they'll be like, hey, this box is now in stock, and you can buy 2 or 3 of them, and then gone. And then you come back a half hour later and maybe it pops up. So there's even a slot machine aspect to them limiting retail access to these boxes. And she will go and stand in Kroger. But that leads me to...
At least she's dedicated.
She's dedicated. She really likes it. And so I love that she's passionate about it. But we've got to be realistic as well. And I appreciated the other day when she was on the phone with you and she was like, oh, I can't buy those. Those are double retail. Like, I think there's something to that. You see that with shoe collectors where like real shoe collectors won't pay much over retail. Like they will figure out a way to do that. So I like that. But I think that also, I was talking about the different types of people in this industry. So you have the people that are just, it's all FOMO, right? They're just doing it to do it. They have no idea what they're doing. I think Miles honestly would probably fall into that category. It's fun. It's exciting, but there's nothing else to it. Then you got the people that are kind of new into it. Where you're kind of still newish into it compared to like the lifers. New into it, but they're passionate about it. They get it. They understand it. And it's something they want to pursue because it gives them joy. Then you have what I equate to the drug dealers. And I think these are the people that are trying to make a living, but in the most like grimy way possible. And these are the guys Tara tells me about that are our age that will stand in Kroger for 5 or 6 hours next to this machine and just wait. And just whenever it resets, and they'll take them and they'll probably go to Whatnot, right? And they'll spend $160 in booster packs or ETB or whatever. And they'll get on Whatnot and they'll flip them for $600-700. You know, decent amount of money
If they hit.
if they're doing Whatnot and they're like selling the packs, because that's what the Pokemon do. They'll be like, hey, here's the pack. We're raffling this pack off.
Yeah.
You get a chance to open this pack for $30, and they paid $30 for 6 packs.
Because they're buying it at retail.
Yeah. So they're making, you know, they're spending $40 retail on a box. Then they get 6 packs. So, you know, maybe they're making $80 per one of those. I mean, you could be making $250 a day. It's really hard to make a living off of it, but it's a grind. And then, you know, because of Tara, I've been getting served more card content. Then you've got the guys that are like next level. And one of them was showing me this dude who lived in like Missouri and drove to the Noblesville Moose Lodge right there on like Field Drive or right by Forest Park. And I'm like, And in there were all of these, guys and girls, probably 30 to 60, just like we remember it. The giant boxes of cards, and he's picking them up, like looking very specifically for the gems. Oh, these are 90 cents a piece. Let me find the card in here that either I need to complete the set or that's $2. And let me spend 4 hours in here doing that exact thing. And those are the, Kyle Haas's of the world, and like the people that.
I mean, one of our good friends on Whatnot does that. And I mean, he spends a ton of his time, so he's given his time to do it, but he buys all these cards between $2 and $12, and he knows what they're worth and turns around and sells them for 20 or 30.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you have enough time, there's people that have enough cards out there that like eBay, they'll forget to like set a minimum, and then it'll be an auction and you can get it really low, or you get on Whatnot and you swipe really fast, and you may get one while someone's sleeping, you may get a steal. And so if they're willing to put that 5 to 10 hours in, people can turn it into a profitable hobby if you are doing something like that. But if you're a pack ripper and you don't have a platform to sell, it's gambling. There's no question about it.
I feel like it'd be such a grind in a lot of instances. Like, I guess if you're going to bigger card shows and you're able to move a lot of quantity at once.
Most people aren't doing it for the money. I think most people do it initially for the hit.
Sure.
Like, I mean, the money might be like, at some point you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't keep doing this. I mean, what type of money do you have to make to spend $1,000 or $2,000 a month net?
$500,000 a year.
Yeah, like at what point does it make sense to say like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy a box of cards for $1,000 today? And so because the collecting has moved into the 30, 40s, and 50-year-olds, it's like I've been trying to instill that in my kids. And so like we use Greenlight, they all have credit cards.
Same.
And they have spending allowances, and they're like, Dad, let's go rip some packs. I'm like, you want to go to Walmart and buy a box? And Isaiah really quickly learned that a hanger box with tax is $63.84, and I've got to wait 4 more weeks before I have enough money to buy another one. So when they see Dad buy a box, which again, I'm a little impulsive just in our nature, I'm like, do you realize that if I buy a hobby box for $800, that in order to do that, and I actually do some of the math, I'm like, let's say you work and you make $20 an hour, and that's like, this is the math behind it. Like, I want you to think about, this isn't normal, and I don't do it very often. Even I don't do it very often. And so it's like, there's this tug and pull, because you always want the next card. I mean, I took for Lent, I got off Whatnot, and I got off buying cards.
Now he's back on.
And then Lent is over, and
the pressure mounted. And
I bought a couple, and I mean, and going back to your community statement, I mean, I'll come clean a little bit. I bought a breaker box, and I bought one hobby box. And so I told the prices of those earlier, but I'll make you go back and see what they are. But the hobby box, I got a card, a Shea Gilgis Aura, which is a 1 in 962 pack hit out of a hobby box. A breaker box is double the hobby box, and that Aura is still a 1 in 161 out of a breaker box. It was the card that it's sold on eBay for over $1,000, right?
So you could hypothetically spend $200,000 on breaker boxes, and that's what it would cost to like ensure you hit that card.
Correct. Yeah. So the hobby box, I hit an Aura. In the hobby box had 2 guaranteed autos in it, but
is
the
that
autos
a case
were
hit? 1 in 900. Is that basically?
Yeah, that is a case
one
hit
per case.
Yeah, that's a case hit. So I bought a hobby box. I get a case hit. My autographs in there were kind of trash. I had a couple of numbered cards, whatever. I was in Indy. Their last box they had was a breaker box, and I'm like, last one. I've been in there 2 times. I happen to be in Indy every now and then. I'm like, all right, I'll take the breaker box. And I'm with my son, and I videoed it, and like, I can't tell you the joy we had opening it up and sending the video to you and James and TJ, and like 3 autos, and the 2 other autos were just okay, but I hit a Dylan Harper rookie red and black.
What's the red and black?
So in the new Topps Finest, they have their signature cards. They have green. So they have the green level like Geo, the green parallel signature cards, which is your most common. So those are generally out of, I think, 100. They're numbered out of 100. You have your orange, which I think are out of 75. You have another color. You have your black, which is out of 25, and your red and black is out of 10. And then your final one is red, which is out of 5. So I've got a Dylan Harper red and black rookie auto signature out of 10 that's arguably worth $2,000, maybe 3. Like, it's super rare. There's 10 of them in the world. It was another case hit. Those are 1 in 41 pack hits just to get one of those, but to get Dylan Harper, who is arguably one of the 3 best rookies in the league right now, he's starting for the Spurs, is even rare. So like the excitement when that poll came out, I mean, it felt like I just hit the lottery. Like, we were super excited about it.
Here's the thing I thought of the other day. I don't know if you guys have seen the video of, like, they do these different videos and it's about valuing your worth and how you can take something to a pawn shop and it's worth this, and you take it somewhere else, it's worth this. You take this amount of lead and you make this with it, and it's worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And Noah made a comment to me the other day when we were in China about the fact that these companies are taking paper. And think about the amount of money. So I'm just thinking about this from a business perspective. Let's take Topps and Panini, right? Clearly, it hinges. They're paying the NBA. That's probably one of their biggest outflows of expenses, is paying the leagues for the rights. Licensing. But I'm just trying to figure out how you do that. You're just kind of making up these cards, right? And you're making up, you can have 1,000,000 one-of-ones, right? But like, there's got to be this art to how many you're putting out there and how many different types of inserts you're putting out there and how limited each insert is. And they've mastered this art of taking paper and putting pictures or designs on it, or maybe adding a little reflection. And these things are coming out of these boxes worth thousands of dollars, and they cost probably pennies to make.
It's like I think about it in 2 ways. First of all, I guess first of all, if you talk about that, like, how much did the oil paints and the canvas cost to paint the Mona Lisa? Or even more abstract art, right? We've all seen art. It's like, what in the hell?
Art's a really good comparison.
Pollock.
Yeah. Some of these different things. And so that, all of that said, does it become, I mean, you see a lot of that, and it's just a mechanism for investment, just to park money. Like, hey, you see a lot of these ultra wealthy people that have $200 million art collections. Cause like, where else do I put it?
Watches is another big one.
It's another one, right?
And people collect watches, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now they hold their value, but
I watched a really good
purses.
A really good one on, oh gosh, I can't think of it, but I watched a documentary on one of the, God, it's on the tip of my tongue because it's a big F1 sponsor. I'll get there. But they make watches that cost about $10,000 to make, and they're selling them for $250,000.
Yeah.
And so it's like, to your point, I kind of wonder, is it something where, okay, we've got to find a community of people and we have to make this an accepted place. Like they have to support this initiative to make like a currency in the US. You had to have people. They're like, okay, we're not trading gold anymore. This has value. And like, that's so interesting to me. Who are the people that validate that these are now worth something? And then when does it become And then it's funny. I sound like a freaking conspiracy theorist. But like, how does that happen? That is such a fascinating.
It is. It's remarkable. I mean, you think about, okay, what if we decided, okay, we're gonna create a third. You got Topps and Panini, and then we're gonna create a third company that sells cards, and we're gonna have inserts and one of ones and one of tens, and we just go out on Whatnot and we start slinging brand that people haven't heard of, but it's like you've got Harper's and flags and like names of people. Like, what would prevent us?
Bo Jackson did that.
Yeah.
Bo Jackson has a set that it's not there, but to your point, some people have done that. They've created their kind of own.
He's got that Tecmo
brands.
one right now where he's done a collab because Bo Jackson, everybody knows Tecmo Super Bowl or Tecmo Bowl, either way. And so it's like Bo's card, whatever that you're talking about. But like he just did a collab with Tecmo Super Bowl where it's a picture of, it's an 8-bit image of him scoring a touchdown in Tecmo Super Bowl. And then he signed it. And it's his Grail card.
He's created a set.
Yeah.
Like you can go out and buy packs of it. The other part we haven't talked about all this is the grading.
Yeah.
The grading companies are popping up like that. You got PSA that, and I saw this thing and it was like every card company in March graded like, PSA was up 18%. They graded 417,000 cards in a month. Then you got like TCG and you got Beckett's. Remember the Beckett guide?
Yeah.
We used to have to get
Every
the monthly
month we
guide
would
and
rush to the Beckett price.
What's
guide.
it worth? And so like there was all of these companies. So now you send these cards away, and you wait 90, 120 days sometimes to get the card back from a grading. And they don't just charge you a per card grade; they charge you a % of what they think it's worth. So you send in a 101, you may pay $300-$400 for the grading, and the difference between a 9 and a 10 is 10x because a 9 is considered like standard. That's considered out of the box standard. But if you get a 10, if you get a PSA specific 10, off the charts.
You getting the Dylan Harper, the SGA graded?
I need to make a trip so you can go to places, Indie Card Exchange being one of them, where you can sit down with them and they'll tell you the ones that you should probably get graded. I have a Knipple rookie out of 75 that is worth $500-$600, but I really, really like it. I may get that graded too. So, and I got some Wimbies that are pretty awesome on the rookie side.
Is it the clay, the 1/1 you still
I
have?
got the clay. I'll probably get the clay. It's a die cut. And so we were talking about, it's a good example. So I got a clay a few years ago when he was still one of the Splash Brothers. 101 arguably would have been worth more that year. But we were looking up and I was talking to James and it was like, in what they're saying, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, just because of.
So you wait till he gets
So
to the
he
Hall.
goes to the Hall of Fame. And so I do think there is a spike in peaks and when people are looking for different cards. And then there's you got to be in the right crowds of people. Like if I go on Whatnot, I'm looking for Pacers and Colts. And, I went out and bought an auto of just about I have an Andrew Nimhard. I have a Tyrese Halliburton. I have Aaron Nesmith. And I got all their rookies, even if they weren't a Pacers. And the irony is some of those second, third tier players you can get for 10, 15, $20 on eBay. They don't even care, like a Zach Edey. I mean, you can go out and find auto rookie cards for near nothing. So there is timing to all of this. And I don't understand the timing as well, but I know when people are hot and I just choose to hold because my thought is like 10 years from now, it should be worth more, but I could be completely wrong.
You guys might find this interesting. Were you going to add something to that?
Oh, I was going to, you go first. I'm going to talk about grading real quick.
Well, just do that. I actually just looked up, just out of interest, the top 10 collectible markets in the world.
Just to add to your grading, I think I've talked about this maybe once on a prior podcast, but there was a big scandal that happened in that regard in the video game industry. That's one that bottomed out. That's one where at one point, I think it was pandemic, everybody was home, everybody had free money because they were all getting their stimulus checks, and unopened NES games, like sealed, originally factory sealed NES games, started going for a 10, 20x what they normally were. And there was this big conspiracy because one of the grading, at least seemingly, allegedly, one of the grading companies that was grading these games had a backdoor relationship with one of the auction houses. Right? So they're like grading them and then like kind of hinting at the value and creating this like inflation that was completely not real. And so there were games that went for $20,000-$30,000 that are worth like $2,000.
Wow.
But that was an interesting, like, you know, you get the wrong relationship between a grading company and an auction house, it can go
Everything's worth what people are willing to pay for
Yeah.
it. Shame on them.
Art and antiques, 57 billion. Number 2, classic cars, 37 billion. Fine wine, 35 billion. Sports memorabilia, 25 billion. Toy collectibles, 24.9 billion. Coins, numismatics.
Pneumatics. Numismatics?
It's numismatics.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Numis. 21 billion. Comic books, hadn't thought about, 16.8 billion. Trading cards, 15.8 billion. Collectible sneakers, Jordans, 9.8 billion. And stamps, 8.5 billion.
So you
Top
mentioned
10
one that's
collectibles.
crazy to me. Great book I recommend. Again, shout out John Faust for recommending this to me. It's something vinegar. It's like the something vinegar. But anyways, it kind of dovetails nicely into the comment I just made about the billionaire's vinegar, I think is something. Yeah. But it dovetails nicely into kind of the scam I was just talking about, where there was a guy, and then again, like you said, it's so crazy what people will pay for. And I think this ties into our conversation about like who's determining this value. But there was this really famous wine reseller who had made a name for himself over years and years and years in the rare wine industry and had worked his way up into this like super top echelon and had essentially fabricated that there was this cellar that Thomas Jefferson had kept in France with all of these bottles of wine that were hundreds of years old from a particular vineyard at a particular vintage, just completely like unbelievable find, right? Like this is the rarest of rare. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for bottles. You know, if you want to read the book, great, fine. Sorry for spoiling it, but here it comes. As you go through the book and as it gets to the very end, it was all a lie. He was dusting the bottles. He was making the labels in his basement. And
True story.
yeah, and creating these bottles to make them look like they were a couple hundred years old. But people were like calling him into question because he always seemed to have more. And they're like, well, how many bottles did Thomas, like, you know, first there were only 3 and then there were 4, the most expensive bottle ever made. And it was bought by one of the huge, I feel like one of the big media magnates bought it and like put it in the foyer of like their New York office. But like it was phenomenal. I mean, we're talking, I think one of the bottles went for 7 figures and it was all bullshit. Wow. I mean, maybe though, you know, and because people were like, well, and then he'd crack a bottle and it would taste perfect. And they're like, there's, you know, the real sommeliers, like there's no way, like it just doesn't make sense. There's no way this could be. But it goes back to like, what will people pay for? And he was in the right rooms with the right people. He knew how to produce the right provenance. He knew what to say, and, you know, probably fleeced that community for tens of millions of dollars. It was crazy.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you read that list, it's really interesting. It's like people have been collecting, and you're billionaires and people who make millions and millions of dollars. I remember one of my wife's dad's best friend, he collected Corvettes, and he got the Corvette that the Indy 500 every year. He got one. He had all 25 of them in a air-conditioned showroom when he passed away. Like there's different levels of this, and maybe part of this is the phenomenon of what's going on with Pokemon, but part of it is we're getting to the collector age because maybe we have a little more disposable income, so we're seeing it a little more. When you're raising kids, they're really little, and you're just trying to build your career. There are people were still collecting that whole time, and I have friends that collect watches, and you know, I'm like, man, if I had a $10,000 hobby of buying watches, I don't know how I would support that. So I would say even after this whole conversation, it's like, I mean, I still think the aggressiveness of those card markets has taken off, but it looks like it's going to continue to grow into the near future, especially in the sporting world with what they're predicting, almost the 10x growth in the next 10 years. It'll be interesting.
When you look at all the other categories and how long many of those have been being collected for, it dwarfs the duration
Cars.
of which, cars. And here's the other interesting thing we haven't talked about at all is if you're a true collector and you're collecting and you're doing it for the, a lot of people collect their own players or whatever. The best way to collect is to buy individual cards.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you look at cars, that's much less gambling, right? Because cars and cards and a lot of these collectibles, they hold their values pretty well, or there's certain categories that hold your value well. And if you're making a bet on a certain player and or you just like that player and you're doing it for fun, I think there's a way to do it that isn't so risky or gambling. And we haven't really hit on that. When you said the 25 cars, that's just a place to put your money that you'll be able to get your money out of it, right? Mm-hmm. When you're done. In the case of most cases, some things pop, some bubbles burst. I was just looking on here about the fastest growing of those collectible sneakers is actually still the fastest growing, as is collector cars, coins, and then collectibles. Trading cards is like sixth on the list in terms
Which
of
LLM are you using?
I'm using chat for this.
So it's interesting because you said cards were 15 billion and Claude said 33.6 billion.
Interesting.
So almost double. So
It's
there's a
of AI.
little AI differentiation.
Yeah, I think what ultimately though the engine that has to drive this is the real collectors, right? They're the ones, the people that are, and again, is it cataloging things from a nostalgic perspective? And I think those people that drive that, they probably have the evolution, like we talked about in prior podcasts, from a professional perspective, where in your 20s and 30s, you are learning the marketplace. I had a good friend of mine who was in the car game, and he worked his way up from a Honda Accord to a Lamborghini. Because he understood, okay, I can buy this car, I can take this off of it and this off of it. I'll part these things out, if it had a turbo on it or something else, and I'll sell these, and then I can resell the car actually for the same price I paid it because I got a great deal, and then I'll buy this car, and then I'll do the same thing, and he worked his way up. So now he knows the market extremely well, and he's built a bankroll, so now he can start collecting cars. Because, a Toyota Camry is not going to hold its value. But when you get into that, now I can start collecting cars that are appreciating in value. And then when I'm in my 50s and 60s, I'm not only cataloging history, but I can also afford to go buy a car that's just special to me. Because I've made so much extra money, and that's here for my own personal enjoyment, like a Jay Leno. But I think there's something to being able to... there's a reason that we have the Louvre and we have museums all over the world that people spend hard-earned money or free to go walk around and explore in Jay Leno's garage with all these beautiful cars that there's something we're drawn to it for some reason. I think that's the basis that drives all of this, and then you have everything else layered on top, and it's exploding.
One we didn't talk about that was actually really big, especially during COVID, was whiskey.
Yeah.
People were... bottles were going for hundreds, and they were hard to find. And
it's still
the alcohol sector is, it's gone back a little bit. But
there's still people doing it.
And then another one that was really, there was one on here that I thought was
NFTs, baby.
Yeah, when we used to buy the
Yeah.
NFTs, but like Legos is another one they said is appreciated more than gold over a 10-year period. The cost of Legos, like I bought all 4 of the big Star Wars sets, the Death Star, the Millennium Falcon, the Defender, and there's one other one that just came out, and they're all unopened. And I think those 4, because some of them have gone out of circulation, but if you have all 4 of their 1,000 or 10,000 plus set builds, that I bet you in a decade they'll be worth a fortune. So I think there's value in history. I think is what we're saying, and the more rare something is, probably it's going to continue to drive value, realizing that there is the possibility for anything to take a step back, depending on where we're at as a society. Any final thoughts?
We could go, yeah.
You want to go rip some packs?
No.
Well, a lot of fun stuff. I think collectibles can be fun. It is something great to do with your kids, but it can easily turn into a wild habit if you let it. So enjoyed talking to you guys on this one, and look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks.